Have you ever wondered about negotiation strategy for buying and selling businesses? That's what we're going to talk about right now on part 3 of my Buying and Selling Small Businesses series. So for me, negotiations and the back and forth is kind of the fun part of the deal because, as I talked about earlier, there's a win-win window for everyone. By the way, that's not a trademark term, but I didn't take it from anyone else, so independent creation, if indeed someone else has thought of that. But at any rate, hey, maybe that's the win-win window dinging right now. But the win-win window means that each side has a range where it's going to be a good deal for them, and you want to just maximize your value there. So what I'm going to do right now is just go over some of my sort of pillars of my negotiation strategy, things that I consistently have done in deals. And I mean, I think it went well. The thing is, you really never know what the other side's range was. It's not like they're going to tell you, hey, you could have gotten an extra $100,000 if you would have just asked for it. But that's not really how it works out. So I'm just going to give you some tools that you can use, and I don't know if they're actually good, but I feel like they've helped me, so I'm going to share that with you because this is something people always ask when it comes to deals. People think of negotiation and people who are deal makers. So really, I think what they're thinking about is negotiation strategy. So I'm going to share that with you right now. The first and most important thing is the concept that negotiations are about two things. The deal working for the person, so the deal being something that will actually meet their needs. So if they have specific concerns, they have specific debts they have to pay off, they can't negotiate that. They have a specific debt they have to pay off. And let's say their business right now is covering that, or they don't necessarily need your money to cover that debt. That's not something they have a choice on. So there are fixed things that drive the buy-sell price of deals. And then there's just ego after that. It's just people want to feel like, in my experience, they got a good deal. So that's why when you first start out, obviously you need to start low. You need to think about what's your win-win window. What do you want to land on? You need to start outside of your win-win window, right? So I'm sure that's getting annoying. Start outside of your range, okay? And that way, when you come into the range, hopefully they'll meet you in your range. If it's outside of your range, then you can't do the deal. Or if you do, now you don't feel like you got a good deal, maybe you won't do it, right? So that's how to think about it. A lot of it is about ego and feeling like they won, or more importantly, not more importantly, but maybe even more frequently, just really being afraid of getting taken advantage of and getting a bad deal, right? Which drives people to sometimes, insist on, maybe more than the deal's even worth. But remember, deals are just worth whatever two people are willing to do a voluntary exchange for. Number 2, it's related to number 1, don't be a jerk, right? So number 1 is remembering negotiations are a big part of them are about ego. And number 2 is don't be a jerk. So you can not be a jerk and forget to follow rule number 1, which is remembering it's about ego, which is making sure that you give them wins. Figure out ways to give wins on things that don't matter to you, right? That's the ego part. But number 2 is don't be a jerk, because if you're a jerk, then you're going to poison the relationship. They're not even going to call you back. They're not even going to want to deal or negotiate with somebody that they don't like. And you can make a great offer to someone, a great deal that maybe is in their window of what they would accept. But if they just dislike you, they're not going to do the deal with you. All right, point 3 on negotiations, and I just hinted at this a little bit, but it's the multiple lever strategy. So here's what I mean by that. In the LOI, you have these different terms, there are likely additional subterms that come up depending on how complex of a deal it is. But what you want to do is take a fairly extreme position on all of the terms out of the gate so that you can give up on the things you don't care about. And hopefully the things you don't care about are the things that your negotiating partner does care about, and then it's beautiful. Everybody feels wonderful about the deal. So, but the more levers you have available for you to compromise on, and the more you can have a consistent narrative throughout the negotiation of, hey, you asked for this, I gave it to you. You asked me to move on this issue, I moved on it. I moved here, I moved here, I moved here. Come on, you need to meet me halfway on point X, which by the way is all you care about, right? And yes, that's probably gonna be the purchase price in many deals, but there are more deal points than just purchase price, believe it or not. The next point is to pretend that you don't really care and don't, be calling the person all the time or emailing to follow up all the time. Yes, I'm saying play hard to get a little bit, okay? Don't go overboard with it, don't be unprofessional, but you definitely don't want to be quick to follow up. It's okay to be a little bit aloof, because then you're letting your negotiating partner know that, like, well, maybe they should they're thinking about moving the window a little closer to their favor. Maybe they'll push it a little more to your favor after it's been 3 days since you've gotten back to their email. Okay, again, everybody's different, but this is just sort of how I have approached some of these deals sometimes. And by the way, sometimes I don't do that at all. If I got somebody emailing me and we're in the middle of if it's the deal's hot and we're really close, I'm gonna call them back right away. And I don't always use this tool, but it's just something to consider depending on who you're dealing with in your negotiations. And the last thing in terms of negotiations is the contingencies are so important to you. Don't give up anything on contingencies when you're negotiating the LOI. Now, back to my point of, if there's somebody else that doesn't have the same contingencies in the deal as you, you might lose the deal. But those contingencies are what protects you from having to do a bad deal that you don't want to do. So make sure that you've been thoughtful about your contingencies as you approach your negotiations, and you can use those kind of as a lever as well. That's it for my negotiation strategy, which, by the way, there are other things that I'm not just going to give everything away, because it's not the end of history for me for doing deals. I'm going to do more deals, and I'm going to do more deals on behalf of clients. So, people who I do deals with in the future, obviously I respect you, and I want us to reach a win-win, but obviously everyone is trying to make the deal more favorable to them. That's the nature of what we're doing. We're in business, it's not charity. Everyone doesn't have this extra money, and to the extent that you overpay on a deal or underpay, the market's less efficient. Oh, economic talk. Anyway, if you have questions or comments, if you hate my ideas, right on, that's cool. Again, this is just my approach. I'm not saying this is the exact formula for everything, or that it even is the best thing all the time. It's just what I do. So that's it, negotiations. Next time we're going to talk about the long form asset purchase agreement.